Salford's A-Team gang at the time was said to be one of the most powerful gangs in the north of England. When it was formed back in 2012, the criminal organisation that is controlled by Stephen Britton, who looked at Paul Massey as a mentor, had amassed a fortune running into the millions. And in order to achieve that level of success, dealing Class A, taxing, GUN sales, prison escapes and also murder were all part and parcel of keeping control on a large drug operations, a monopoly of white and weed in the Greater Manchester area. The A-Team's violence knew no bounds and there was no age limit on their victims. However, a simple argument turned friends against each other, and the anti-A-Team was formed roughly in 2014. Now the gang was led by Michael Carroll, whom worked as a scaffolder before becoming a sophisticated crime boss. The brutal feud amongst pals turned Salford gangsters reached a turning point when members of the A-Team, who were all wearing masks, had targeted Michael Carroll's ex-girlfriend and the mother of his child outside her home in January of 2015. The men had taken a steel saw to a VW Golf and removed the roof. In the aftermath, Salford's Mr. Big Paul Massey would be emmed outside his Clifton home on July 26, 2015. The person responsible was Mark Fellows, an enforcer and a hitman for the anti-A-Team. The GUN of choice was a submachine. This was the beginning of the dismantlement of the A-Team. On the 12th of October 2015, the A-Team tried to K Christian Hickey Jr., who was 7 years old, and his mum Jane, after the A-Team tried to avenge the of Paul Massey. Members of the A-Team gang comprised of 28-year-old Carn Mason, 32-year-old Adair Warmington, and 49-year-old Christopher Hall. They had travelled to an address in Gillingham Road, Winton, Eccles, just after 9:20 p.m. Two gangsters were wearing baseball caps and they had banged on the living room door. The family had settled down for the evening to watch football. Jane, who was the mum, then went to answer the front door. Christian, who was 7 years old, followed his mum and joked it's the postman. A man who was later found to be Carn Mason stood at the end of the driveway, leaning against the mum's VW Golf. He then asked Jane and her son, "Is your husband in?" Which Jane replied, "1 sec." The gangster then muttered something under his breath while Jane turned around and went to call her husband. The trigger man, who was said to be Christopher Hall, then stepped into view. He raised his pistol and then pressed the trigger in quick fashion. Jane was struck in the upper leg, where the metal had passed through the leg and then struck Christian, who was standing behind his mum on the doorstep. Again, he was struck with ammo, and he was only 7 years old. Jane tried to force the front door shut in a panic. Still, the A-Team gang had pressed the trigger again and again and again, trying to K anyone in their vicinity. Police believe the intended target was Christian Hickey Sr., who was actually home at the time. Christian Hickey Sr. was said to be a known friend of anti-A-Team leader Michael Carroll. Michael Carroll was out of the country, hiding in Dubai, so the A-Team wanted to K anyone that was remotely associated with Michael. In response to hearing his son whimper and his wife cry out in panic, Christian Hickey Sr. bolted out of the front door and chased the triggermen. All three members of the A-Team, Carn, Adair and also Christopher. However, the gang escaped. Christopher Hickey Jr. and his mum were rushed to hospital and they were hospitalised for more than 1 month, where the 7-year-old had to undergo 3 operations and he was wheelchair bound. He also spent a year learning how to walk again. As for Jane, she also had to undergo multiple operations. Now, police says that the GUN that was used in the Christian Hickey Jr. had been used in several other incidences that plagued the Greater Manchester streets. Carn Mason, who was 28 years old, Christopher Hall, who was 49 years old, and Adair Warmington, who was 32 years old, were each cleared of a count of conspiracy to commit an M, but they were convicted of conspiracy to commit GBH with intent, and of course perverting the course of justice. Now, Christopher Hall was previously convicted of being the person that took possession of the Heckler & Koch, the pistol. He also chose not to give evidence during the trial because he did not want to implicate his defendants. Christopher Hall says, "Thou shalt not grass." Adair Warmington, who was a senior member of the A-Team gang and a major dealer, he took on a supervisory role in the incident to make sure the attempted M went through. He was jailed for 20 years. Con Thomason, who was a dealer earning roughly £5,000 a week, was the person that knocked on Christopher Hickeys' door. He was jailed for 23 years. Now, Christopher Hall, who was the triggerman, was jailed for 14 years and 6 months. This incident caused national outrage, and it was the beginning of the end of the A-Team gang. Stay safe.